Well, hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hey. Welcome back to the Trigger Warning 2A podcast.
Yes, I'm Antonia Okafor.
And I'm Nina Prevo. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're here to talk all things Second Amendment. And sometimes we get into other issues too, like feminism and culture. But today it's going to be a very Second Amendment heavy show because we have a great guest. If Antonia wants to
Yes, you do. So first of all, I want to thank you all, the true believers. We need to have like some type of like cool thing, like Justin Bieber has like the believers. We need to have like you know, and then Monterey has like solutionary. So we need to figure out something. But you guys who have been loyal the last few weeks, waiting for this incredible guest, Andrew Pollack, who is has this book out called Why Meadow Died, and he's gonna talk more about his story. But it's gonna be a really incredible show, and we're gonna introduce you to him and have him talk to you guys more about who he is. And for those who might know a little bit about him, he is the father of Meadow Pollack, who was one of the victims of the Parkland shooting last year. And so we're going to have a really great conversation today. And again, if you guys have questions or anything like that, please put them in the comments or the live chat. Edgar will screen them. If it's not PC enough for him, he will kick you out. So obviously that's not going to happen.
Nothing's too PC
for Edgar.
Or excuse me, nothing is not PC enough.
Right.
Or I'm messing that up one way or the other. But Andrew, thank you so much for being here. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to those of our audience who might not know who you are?
Sure. Andrew Pollack. My daughter, Meadow, was murdered February 14th in Parkland, Florida. Mm-hmm. And I've become very outspoken just because I really wanted to look into the facts of how that could happen, how my daughter was in that school and how she got murdered. And what really empowers me is the love I have for my daughter. And I needed to honor her and expose everything and every policy and everyone and hold them all accountable for what happened. And that's what I've been doing over about the last year and a half to honor her and expose all the failures, whatever they were. I was going to expose them. And I've been on a mission to do that for her, and my daughter would want me to do that. And that's what inspires me every day to go and uncover these people that failed.
Of course. And, obviously, we are so sorry for your loss. This kind of tragedy should not happen to anyone, and I'm so sorry that this happened and that you did lose your daughter in this way. I just wanted to say that first and foremost because it really is tragic. So I'm so sorry for your loss on that.
It's something that you can't even explain it. It's so bad to happen to a parent. There's no words you can put on it because your life is really pretty much over once it happens, because there's not a second in the day that goes by I don't think of my daughter and the people that allowed it to happen. So it's something that's very difficult to live with.
I can obviously understand that. And one of the things that you did, and you were talking about how ever since this tragedy happened at Parkland, you have been kind of on a mission. And let me see if I can get the book here in the picture. So you wrote your book here, Why Meadow Died. And I think that it's very important that our audience is aware of this book. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about why you were inspired to write this book and a little bit about what's in there.
Sure. A couple of things, when my daughter was murdered, my daughter wasn't even buried yet. And the superintendent and the sheriff were blaming guns and the NRA before I even had the funeral, the next day. And I'm not the type of guy to listen to people. I do my own thing and I'm going to make my own decisions. And no one really tells me what to do in life. So I wanted to know, like I said before, how could this happen? If it was the gun that did it, I'd be here talking to you about the gun. If it was the NRA's fault or any type of gun control, I would be saying that to you. But I wanted to find the facts out. And after doing my own investigation and what I found out, there was so many failures that happened that the school board and the district and the sheriff's department don't want parents to know. And that's why I had to put this book together, so parents could find out the truth of what's going on in the schools, about how this murderer went to the school and he was so dangerous he had to be frisked every day. He wasn't allowed in with a backpack, but he was able to go into school. He said he wanted to kill. He was never arrested. He trespassed at the school, never arrested. Threatened to shoot the school up, never arrested. And all these facts that I found out from just, asking questions, and people came to me and wanted to tell me these things. Mr. Pollack, we knew this kid was so evil. We didn't know why he went to the school. We went to the vice principal. We told him this kid was going to kill. A parent called me up and said she called the Broward Sheriff's Office and told him about, he had an Instagram account where he said he was going to shoot up the school. Or she called the FBI and they never followed up. So all these are facts that I have in the book, and what it's about policies that were in place of ending the school to prison pipeline and not holding kids accountable that enabled this guy to never get arrested, and which, if he was never arrested, he didn't have a background check, so he was able to purchase the rifle legally. Democrats are, all they do, I wish I had $1 for every time they said background check on the news. You know what I'm saying? That or impeachment or whistleblower. I'd be a billionaire right now if that's what it was. But background checks only work if they arrest criminals when they commit, violent crimes, when they say they want to kill. So,
right. And it's true, they talk about.
Hold on. I could get a headset. Julie, could you get me a headset? I think we're having issues.
Thank you so much.
Are we having audio trouble?
Yeah, echo. There
was a little bit of an echo. Oh, okay.
So, background checks work if they would have arrested him for, that's my mom walking behind me. If they would have arrested him for when he punched his mother's teeth out, he would have had a record. If they would have arrested him, he trespassed at the school like the year before and he wasn't arrested. So there's so many things that happen that if it would have, if they would have arrested him, he wouldn't have been able to buy a rifle, or he could have been committed for trying to commit suicide, or when the FBI was called with a tip, he would have came up on the FBI's hit list that he was arrested, and they would have got to this kid. But instead, none of those things happened. He purchased the rifle legally, and so Democrats really don't want to talk about solutions. They just want to implement new laws that won't make a difference. Okay, and these are just facts. I didn't despise Democrats my whole life. I really just started despising them after I looked into these policies and their refusal to accept any accountability for my daughter getting murdered.
Yeah. So I was looking at your that list of all the stuff that that he did, which I guess we're not on the radio, so we can say a little bit what they said. I remember the first thing was that, oh my goodness, he was caught by a student masturbating in class.
Oh my goodness.
One of the many things. That's just the start of the stuff that he was doing. But I remember in Texas, at least, for much less than that, you would be put straight into alternative school. Did they have that? Is that just something that's not permanent, or was it not even an option?
No, they did it. So in middle school, the teacher kept a bunch of notes, because another problem with these kids, besides the leniency, in discipline that's going on in the public schools, they'll take a kid who's mentally disturbed and they'll label them special needs. So we're not talking about a kid that just has dyslexia or a learning disability or autism and they're not disruptive. Those kids, we should help them all day long. You're talking about a kid who's emotionally disturbed. They call it oppositional defiant disorder. It's like they're like a psychopath, and they label them special needs kids, and it makes them untouchable. And this is going on across the country. You're seeing it all over the place. It's not just in Broward where my daughter went. So between the lax discipline policies and labeling kids emotionally disturbed special needs, it's really a huge problem, what's going on in the public schools.
Right. And I'm curious about, obviously, the Broward County Sheriff's Department was under fire after this happened because there was all that footage of the police officers standing outside of the building and not going in. But I understand Antonia's point in that I'm really surprised that there wasn't any action taken beforehand because I had been a law clerk. I served for some judges here in Colorado, and there were 2 girls who had been planning a school shooting, and they had done much less than this guy had done. But they were arrested. They were brought in. Both of these girls are still going through the juvenile justice system. I mean, they got several years of time, in addition to pretty much probation for life after that for threatening to do all of this, and it was for much less. So did the Broward County Sheriff's Department have any explanation as to why they didn't act on this? Did they say that it was for these reasons, for the sake of trying to make sure that we don't have more kids going into the prison pipeline? Was that their excuse?
What they do is, so the police were to his house on 45 calls, if you could believe it, between him and his brother without an arrest. So what happens is a lot of the sheriff is an elected official, right? So he's got to be elected. So he signs on to the program of not arresting juveniles also when they commit these crimes. So when he runs for office, he could use that stat. Since I've been sheriff, I reduced crime by 30 or 40%. What they do is they're just really they stop arresting. And what I found out is we really are hurting these kids, okay? The at-risk, whatever they want to call them. They started it. It was because of minorities. They said we're getting arrested more than other kids and Hispanic kids. To me, kids are kids. It doesn't matter what color. If you don't hold kids accountable, you set them up for failure, whether they're black, white, yellow, or green. Kids need accountability. If you commit a crime, okay, we don't want to hurt kids that make a mistake. No kid should have to be hurt and have a record for the rest of their lives. Right. So, but the problem is they don't see it this way. Where when you catch them when they're young, you introduce them into the judicial system. You teach them a lesson, right? And then when they're 18, if they've been good for 18, then you give them the clean slate and they don't have a record. What Democrats don't seem to understand is if you don't show accountability when kids are young, you set them up for failure because you don't teach them right from wrong. And then when they're 19 and they commit a crime, there's no program to go into. Now you're going to get a felony and it's going to be on your background. So I've spoken to, I had the honor to sit on the transition team when Ron DeSantis became the governor. I sat on a committee with a bunch of sheriffs. And what they kept telling me was, you have to catch kids early when they're acting out or they're disruptive, and teach them the right from wrong when they're juveniles, so they learn a lesson, and then you set them up for success. When you don't show them accountability, you set them up for failure, and it's happening in Broward County. Felonies are through the roof, because they're not holding kids accountable when they're young.
Yeah, I think this is a very, I totally understand that. I think the conversation, I would say, probably goes under the umbrella of criminal justice reform, which I'm a very big proponent of criminal justice reform. I don't think when it comes to nonviolent crimes that we should be just putting people in prison because of, drugs and stuff like that.
Right.
But I think, especially in that case, a lot of that was physical, behavioral, like actual on the violent scale, if not violent, beforehand. Yeah. Right. And there has to be the distinction between those two.
And the same thing with the Dayton shooter. That kid, everyone knew he wanted to kill. He had a rape list. You know what I'm saying? Some kids need to be introduced to law enforcement. Some kids, like you're saying, if it's something that's nonviolent, and they could be mentored in the right program, we could help them. But some kids really need to be introduced to law enforcement because they're just evil kids or they're violent and they need to be pointed in the right direction. There has to be a certain balance. When it goes too far left, like in California, they just made it's against the law now in California to suspend disruptive kids.
What?
If you can believe. Yeah, they just made it a law. Gavin Newsom signed a law, signed the law like about a week and a half ago that it's against the law to suspend disruptive kids. Now, what parent in their right mind would want to send their kid, or a teacher? Why would you want to teach there? So, but it's a law. Everybody could Google it. I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah, making discipline illegal. That's a great plan.
They did.
To make sure future generations are well behaved and civilized. That's really going to pan out well.
That's their platform. And when my daughter was in school, so the rules, this promise program, they called it, kids were allowed 4 misdemeanors per school year without ever getting introduced to law enforcement. So you could deal drugs, you could have a fight, you could assault a teacher, and you could rob an iPhone and never meet the school resource officer.
What?
And then I'm telling you, it's crazy. So that's 9th grade, and then in 10th grade it resets. So you get another 4 for the next 10th grade, and then 11th and 12th. Now they just changed it now. Now it doesn't reset. They get like I don't know how many, 2 or 3 a year now, not 4. And that's what's going on. And it's a platform that started with the Obama administration of to end the school to prison pipeline. And what they do is really create it by not helping kids when they're juveniles and set them up for success.
What I find interesting with all that too is, again, it's good intentions, right? Sometimes.
Yes, I agree with you.
But failed policies. I mean, just think about the same state that's trying to push, red flag laws and stuff like that, But even in this instance, it was, we're talking about brown and black people, like trying to prevent them from going into prison. But it was he was white.
Yeah.
Right?
And the problem is, it has no color crime. It just creates this culture of leniency in the district. And then no one gets reported. They stop reporting. And it hurts everyone. It hurts the disruptive kids. It hurts the kids that want to learn. And it hurts the teachers in the school. So, there are programs that work. The real fix is you can't leave it up to a school district or a school board to put the right program in place. To me, law enforcement's not the enemy. I got a lot of good friends. They don't want to hurt these kids. They would love to mentor them in good programs. And I met plenty of sheriffs in Florida that have these programs that help these kids with structure and set them up for success, where the school district makes it like, a lot of the law enforcement's the enemy.
Right. And I just want to comment too. You mentioned the red flag law, and how many times you said 41 calls to the sheriff's 45 calls.
Times. Yep.
And the sheriff's department didn't do anything. I mean,
never arrested him. He punched his mother's teeth out one time, $8,000 worth of damage. Shooting chickens in a street, punching holes in the walls,
and
just endless.
Yeah, and so they're trying to promote these laws that would just annihilate due process when the sheriff's departments can't even, take care of someone who has already been physically violent and has had that many calls put into them anyway. I mean, if we don't have competent law enforcement to deal with people who would do us harm, or with teenagers who have become so nihilistic and insane that they would commit acts of violence like this, then I mean, no amount of laws is going to change the fact that our police officers need to be actually doing their job and actually.
Well, I have a problem with the red flag laws because police officers aren't they're not mental health experts.
No,
you know what I'm saying? So if someone, everyone, if you really think about it, so they want to do these red flag laws, and it got passed in Florida. I wasn't really an expert at it. I just did a lot of research on it. So they want to take someone, they want to say, you're a danger to yourself and others. So we want to take your guns from you.
Right.
So it doesn't even make sense if you think about it. So you're only going to take his guns. What about if he has an axe in the garage, or he's going to take a bottle of pills, or he's going to jump in his car and drive down the street and kill 10 people.
Or if he just has a car in his garage, right? Just if he's a danger to himself, right? He shouldn't be able to have a car at all.
So there has to be more to it. They have to be arrested or committed. So if it's that bad, like I'm saying, if the police think you're that much of a danger, then why leave the person out on the street? You should have mental health people involved, because the police aren't trained for it. Or the person, if they're threatening people's lives, they should be arrested.
Can you talk louder?
Yeah.
I'm not good. You can't hear me?
No, you're great. You're great.
Okay.
I can hear you fine.
I'm just wondering. No, I'm just saying, it doesn't make sense to me, the red flag laws. If someone's a danger, and they're threatening people's lives, then arrest them.
Yeah, I mean, in addition to all of the due process issues with it and how it violates, several different amendments of the Bill of Rights, on its face, it actually doesn't make sense. What they're trying to propose. Yeah, and it got passed here in Colorado too.
Yeah,
it got passed in Florida, but it was like 3 weeks after my daughter's murder. And I didn't really understand it. It wasn't on the top of my list what I was thinking about.
As it shouldn't have been.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
so now when I look at it, I would say if someone's a danger to themselves or they're threatening other people's lives, then why wouldn't you want to arrest them so they get a background? And then let someone evaluate them who is an expert in mental health. You know what I mean? A police officer isn't an expert in mental health. So you shouldn't leave it to them, and then you would have the right due process. And who would want that person on the street? If you think they're that much of a danger, then I need protection. I shouldn't be out on the street with somebody that you thought they're so dangerous you want to take their guns, but they could still drive, but they could still get a baseball bat, an axe, a propane bottle, or anything like that. So they really, it's just common sense. I think, even the senators. I'm going to talk to some of my senator friends that for these red flag laws and just try and explain it to them that way, like we just spoke about it.
Yeah, because if they can't even get probable cause to arrest you for a crime, then how, or for an attempt at a crime or for planning a crime, conspiracy to commit a crime, then they shouldn't be coming in and violating your rights.
I agree with you 100%.
So, because probable cause is such a low standard anyway. I mean, if you can't even have enough to facilitate an arrest, then you definitely shouldn't be having your rights
There shouldn't
violated.
be it. If it's not enough to arrest someone, then they shouldn't have to. They shouldn't take your guns from you. If it's bad enough, they got to take your guns. Then it should be an arrest.
Yeah, they should. They should have enough. And if they don't, then they should leave you alone.
Exactly.
And the individual here had more than enough probable cause for an arrest. I mean, oh my gosh.
He threatened to kill. The teacher took notes. He wanted to kill. He dreamt of blood. He was infatuated with guns.
Individual.
You know that it was so crazy. He was infatuated with guns, right? He went to an alternative school. They knew he was infatuated with guns and killing. They have his record. And what class, the first class they put him into at my daughter's school is JROTC, and they teach him how to shoot, and they give him one of them air rifles. That's what they did to my daughter, these people in Broward, if you could believe it. He was even at school. He carved like swastikas into a table. He had the N-word on his backpack. Never arrested.
Oh, what a good kid.
Just an animal. You know what I'm saying? He would wear a mask around the school, like a camo mask. Like you would wear hunting or if it's cold. He would wear that and hide behind like trees and buildings and jump out and cackle at people and scare them. And this is what they had in the school with my daughter.
I have always thought that anyone who is just wearing a mask all the time, like there's something off, because you're trying to hide your face just when you're acting in the world.
Yeah, you should have the right to just hit them with a bat, like in Antifa in Portland. You come at someone with one. You come at me with a mask on. You're getting like my dog's going to attack you. Or you're going to get shot.
Right.
One or the other, man.
I've got a question from.
Oh, our producer has a question for you.
From
the audience.
Visconti Rogue. Hopefully I'm saying that right. It's a fake name anyway, so.
Fake news.
What would you say is an acceptable mental illness? Is what the question is.
To me, it'd have to be violence involved. I'm not an expert, so I can't really, I'm not really that, it'd have to be not someone who's just having a bad day or from a divorce. It would be someone that's threatening violence or to himself or something to do with violence where he would be a danger. That would be, what I would qualify it as, but I'm not an expert, so just my opinion. I don't, people have bad days, and they have mental illness, but they're not violent. But someone violent, I would think that they should be, be looked at.
And I think I'm just going to chime in really quick. I've had the pleasure of working with an organization called Walk the Talk America, who is really close with Mental Health America, and they do happen to have a lot of experts. And I mean, Cruz was basically the definition of what quote unquote mental health illness would kind of fall on, because the only precursor, what they talk about is the only real indicator of future violence is previous violence. So
he had previous, and
that's the point.
Three times in 1 week they evaluated him, and they could have committed him. They could have put something on his background, which Democrats don't talk about. There's laws in place for people that are violent. If they are committed, they have a Baker Act, and if you go through the full process of a Baker Act, it could go on their background where they wouldn't be able to purchase a rifle. And that's something that we could be looking at too, that where there's laws in place, because a lot of times, my wife works at the hospital. Crazy people will come in who and they're violent, and they're in just for 72 hours and then they're out. They don't get evaluated, they don't go in front of a judge, and it doesn't go on their background. So I don't know, maybe I'm not an expert in it. I'm just saying there's that's solutions to me, looking at things like that, not just passing universal background checks or looking to ban semi-automatic rifles. I would look into that mental health process, how they do that.
And it's true, even the Columbine shooters had been violent with animals and stuff,
Yeah, this kid was skinning animals. He'd bring dead animal to school and show it to his friend in his backpack, a dead animal, and they thought that was okay.
And that's very different than someone who might have anxiety or depression.
Yeah.
Or, like you were talking about, maybe they just have gone through a divorce, so they're a little unhinged or something.
Yeah, a lot of people ask me about I get that questioned a lot when I talk about mental health. What what would qualify them? I'm not an expert. I'm just saying if there's a violence a tendency or somewhere, or threats, if there's a threat, then I would say that something needs to be done,
And I'm a pretty strong libertarian type, but our biggest thing is that we're against violence. So if you have people who are out there committing acts of violence, those are the people that there's actually a place, in my opinion, for the state to intervene, because they're actually attacking and hurting other people. And if they're attacking animals, then that is, to me, that's probable cause for at least an investigation into some stuff, especially if they have written threats about shooting up a school. They have a propensity for violence and they've made threats. That should be enough for probable cause. So,
and all that was there, and none of it was done. And and all these Democrats came to Florida. Nancy Pelosi, Eric Swalwell, whatever his name is, all of them.
Duke Nukem, as I call him.
All of them came pushing their anti-gun, but none of them looked at the facts. None of them really looked at all these failures. They just blamed the gun, which made me sick. That's why, I just started despising these type of people.
Yeah. And then you started, so I kind of want to go back. When I met you was, not too long. I forgot how long. I mean, maybe a
remember
weeks.
That we were in D.C. I went at it with that guy?
Yeah. With that guy? Was it congressman? Or former
fun.
Congressman?
Who knows? I don't know.
Otherwise, whatever it was.
I wish I could have seen this.
Yeah, I wish we could actually shown that, but maybe we'll do that next week when we.
People thought they called me after. They thought I was going to take a swing at him, but he was
oh really?
He was an old. Yeah, he was an old guy.
That's why they put me in the middle, though. That's probably why they put me in the middle.
Yeah, he was just an old guy, you know what I mean. But I let him have it, right?
Yeah, you did. You did great. I was like, I'm just gonna let you.
I wasn't gonna take no shit
let
from
you
that guy.
But the reason I brought that up because I remember we were talking and you kind of started this whole movement of the Fix It movement. I remember that, and can you just talk a little bit like right after the the Parkland shooting and everything, and all this stuff is happening. And then you're invited to the White House, and then that's your viral moment. I think the beginning of that was when you stood up for the Second Amendment and people were expecting you not to. Can you kind of explain, but kind of talk about that, him inviting you, the White House inviting you, and you deciding to take a stand for your principles and your values and going from there, and the Fix It movement from there too?
Sure. Well, the president called me. Not him personally, like his staff.
Right.
And they wanted me to go to the White House. And, this was the first week, my daughter she just was buried. And being Jewish, she would have a mourning period, So it was like the last day. And I said, if the president wants to see me, I'll come there. But I want to have a private meeting with him. I'm not going on a tour. I don't need to see the White House. I don't really care. If he wants to sit with me and talk, then I'd be open to that. And then the next day they called and said the president wants to meet with you and he'll have a private meeting with you. So I said, okay. I took my two sons, Meadow's boyfriend, and my wife, we flew up, and he met us in the Oval Office where we spoke about Meadow and what happened and about forming a commission on school safety. And then we spoke for about 15 minutes, and Hope Hicks was there, and that's when he told Hope Hicks, Hope, I want to make a federal school safety commission. People don't know these things because they just badmouth the guy all the time, but he listened, he put this commission together, and they did a lot of work for school safety, over 100 recommendations for schools. But what parents don't realize, and Democrats, is the president can't help you at a local level where your kid goes to school. Right. They're not going to listen to the president. That's why I say my book, Why Meadow Died, is so important, because it's really you're responsible where you put your kid at school. You drive them to the school bus, you take them to the school. So he can't help you at the school. No one can. The governor, your senator, they can't help you. It's the school district, and you have to make the decision if that school's the right environment for your kid. Or you got options, you got private school, charter schools, which are great, and homeschooling. So after I met with him, and I didn't even know I was going to that listening session, Wow. I wasn't invited to that listening session where I spoke. He goes, we have this listening session going on. I'm like, what the hell's a listening session? You know what I mean? I don't know what that is. But we're going to have this listening session. Do you want to come with me to the other room? I said, all right, I'll go. So it was pretty cool. We walked through the Rose Garden, me and the president, where you see what the president of China, they all walk through that hallway, and I'm like looking at him, and we're talking about just life. I went through a divorce. He's asking me about that, and we're just talking. And then I go into this room. I didn't know what was even going to go on, and then that's when I just spoke to him about that. We should have fixed it. There should have been one school shooting, and we should have fixed it. And he listened, and he did a lot, but they can't do anything, you know what I mean, to help you locally. And that's what I learned with politicians, and that's what's in this book. It's this manual for parents to really look at it. And if I would have read this book 2 years ago, my daughter would be alive, because I never would have sent her to the school where it's okay to frisk kids before they go to school. So it's really on the parents. And you know what? We could talk a lot about. I never, was such a proponent of the Second Amendment, and your show's a Second Amendment show.
Yeah. So
I'd like to talk about what the Second Amendment means to me also. Besides, it's not in the book, but my daughter. The hundreds of calls came in from 911 for my daughter. She was on the third floor. They let the killer walk through the front gate with a rifle bag. She relied on the monitor at the front gate to stop or call code red. He never did it. He doesn't save my daughter. But he calls another monitor, right, who's on the second floor. He goes to the first floor and sees the shooter. He runs back the other way and hides in a closet, if you could believe this. He's another monitor, right? And I had a depo of him, this piece of shit. His name's David Taylor, 50-year-old man. He knew the gunshots were going off. He went in the closet, right? He hears over if you could believe this, he hears over the loudspeaker for the children to evacuate the building because they think it's a fire, because when you shoot, it discharges smoke, right? So the smoke from the discharge set the fire alarms off, right? So this piece of shit goes in the closet and he's hiding. He's 50 years old. He hears the loudspeaker. He knows it's gunshots. He tells me in the deposition that we just had, I know it's gunshots. I hear him over the radio calling it's firecrackers. And then he hears the vice principal get on the loudspeaker. Everyone evacuate the building. This is not a drill, right? What is this piece of shit? Doesn't even warn anyone on the third floor. He let all those kids get killed. And my daughter, this guy, hid in the closet, if you can believe this shit.
Wow.
So then it gets worse. Then you got the deputy, right? He's supposed to, you call them, they tell you, 911, the Democrats. You shouldn't, you know what I mean? Call 911. So the deputy, Peterson, he goes to 9 feet from the door of the building, and he hears the rounds go off that kills 2 of the coaches that went in unarmed, Aaron Weiss and Hickson, Coach Hickson. So they get killed. The deputy doesn't open the door, right? He retreats and goes back and hides behind a wall, the guy, right?
Cowardice.
So, yeah. So now he goes up to the third floor, where now my daughter, an idiot teacher, my daughter heard the shots because she texted her boyfriend, I hear gunshots. My daughter's teacher because the smoke alarm's going off, puts my daughter out into the hallway, right? 90 rounds. You guys know what a round sounds like from an AR. It's a freaking loud, it's loud, man. You can't not know what that is. The building was shaking, right? She puts my daughter out. So my daughter gets shot 4 times in the hallway. Then this teacher locks the door and my daughter can't get back in. My daughter now, so then my daughter covers a freshman, right, to save her, because it's all on video. I haven't watched it, but people told me, I don't know, one day maybe I'll watch it. I don't know. He goes to my daughter at point blank and shoots her 5 more times, and it killed my daughter and this one. So all these people, so what I'm getting to is all those people failed my daughter. And all the 911 calls, no one came to save my daughter. So now these Democrats, I'm damaged now. I'm not calling 911. And I'm a big proponent of the Second Amendment because I have family and friends, and I'm not calling 911. I am going to handle it right then and there for my family and my friends. Okay? Yeah. I'm not relying on any coward cop, any monitor to protect my other sons and my family. And that's why people have to fight like we do for the Second Amendment, because the Second Amendment, is there to protect us. Look at my daughter, a victim. All these people, victims sitting there in Walmart, when they got killed, or when they got shot in Dayton. I'm not going to be a victim, and it kills me to know that my daughter was waiting for someone to help her, and no one came. Right? So it's a big problem, and that's why, in a nutshell, that's why I'm a big proponent of the Second Amendment, and I want my rights to protect what's left of my family, my 2 sons, my wife, and my friends.
So I've got a comment obviously from the comments. But
sorry, I went on.
No,
that was great. Thank you so much
but I'm
for
just
that.
telling you that's what the Second Amendment means.
Yeah, and it kind of goes in line with what you were talking about, the whole fire drill. So it kind of worked out. So this is from Richard Fletcher. I honestly believe that our schools need to stop doing mass shooting drills. It causes hysteria and makes children afraid of guns.
I don't think that's true. I would disagree with him. I know that on the third floor there was a teacher. I'm going to tell you, my daughter's teacher didn't have the right code red drill, and three of her students were murdered. Right, one including my daughter, because she was just an imbecile. When the smoke alarm went off, the 90 rounds didn't mean nothing to her. A kid hasn't died in a fire in a school since the 60s, but my daughter's teacher let her out into the hallway to get murdered. So across the other way in the hallway, there was a teacher that came from another school district where they did a code red drill with like blank fire. You know what I mean? They went in the school district, they shot like weapons in the hallway, blanks. They banged on the walls, they screamed. Her whole class was saved. Okay, so I've been experienced through it, and kids, they want to be safe, and training the right people to work. Trainings and policies save lives, and that's just an example from the teacher that let my daughter get killed, who didn't go through the drills, to a teacher that went through the proper drill. She saved her whole classroom.
Yeah. And this is probably going to get maybe a little controversial, but it has to be said. And I really was really blatant when I was at the assault weapons ban hearing. And I don't know if you, Andrew, watched that a little bit or know about the Charlottesville police chief that was there. But it really was, this is why Republicans who tend to be very just to a fault, always pro-police. Not every police officer is created equal. And that is very apparent,
but that's
obviously.
Everybody in life.
Right, anybody in life. But there are definitely,
I
think there's a tribalistic
police,
type of...
It's everything.
Right, absolutely. But I do think there's a tribalistic type of thinking of police officers, complete respect. They're there, to protect your constitutional rights. Looking at that Charlottesville police chief who in a hearing says that she is okay. She wants every single weapon to be banned because she's more concerned about her and other police officers, right? Even though that's why they are police officers, is to protect civilians, right? They're more concerned about their safety. And they also have a Supreme Court, right, not really a right, but a Supreme Court backing, saying that they do not have a duty to protect civilians. So is this all going back to the point of, yes, obviously there are a great amount of people, a great amount of police officers that would be courageous, that would have done the right thing in that situation, that would also protect our constitutional rights. But at the end of the day, so the Second Amendment is not about our public safety officers and stuff like that. Is about the individual being able to protect themselves, just like you're saying. And that's why we have the Second Amendment, because we can't always we shouldn't rely on the government, because there's going to be great people who are part of police officers, and there are also going to be those who are like in the Broward County, and those monitors who failed Meadow and who failed all those students.
And it wasn't just one deputy; it's like four deputies that didn't go in the building that were fired. So why should you think I'm going to call 911 if something's going to come after my sons or my wife?
Right.
That ain't going to happen. I don't even have 911 where I lived. I don't have phone service on half the mountain. So I don't even ever count on calling 911 ever.
And that's the thing.
I'm just handling it myself.
That's the thing too. Even if you have the most competent police officers, there's that quote or that saying that says, when you only have a minute to survive, the police are 15 minutes away.
It's not even.
If you have 15 seconds to survive, the police are 15 minutes away. So and that's why, or at least partially why, I think Antonia and I like to carry, because I've lived by myself as a woman in many cities, and if I'm walking down the street by myself, I don't have 15 minutes for the cops to show up if someone's trying to like sexually assault me or kidnap me or something like that. I have, like you said, I have seconds to respond. I don't have minutes. And that's what the Second Amendment's about, because obviously there are great police officers out there, and I've met some, and I know that's controversial as a libertarian to say, but
but they can't get to you.
But they can't. Even the best
the
ones.
greatest police officer on the planet can't get to you
in time
to save you.
Yeah, especially in certain situations like this, and it's like you were saying too. But not all of the police officers even will try to do that. So
most of them are there. They're going to fill out a report.
Right.
You know what I mean? By the time they get there, they're filling out a report. And a friend of mine said it right. He says when seconds count, first responders are minutes away.
Right.
And that's the truth. You got to be able to protect yourself right then and there. And they talk about like Beto O'Rourke about this. Ugh. I don't even use the word assault rifle because I don't know what it is. Right. I say they want to ban semi-automatic rifles. In Texas, right after my daughter's shooting, in Santa Fe, Texas, there was a shooting at the school. 10 people were killed, and they used a shotgun and a pistol. So if Democrats were really serious about stopping the school shootings and saving lives, why don't they talk about that shooting? Because it just why don't they talk about those victims who were killed with a shotgun? Because it's not in their agenda. They're not. There's no interest in a solution with these people. They're just pushing an agenda, and it's not going to make a difference. Arrest people when they threaten people's lives, commit mentally ill, violent people, and have them evaluated. And that'll stop shootings.
And speaking of Santa Fe shooting, I remember that, and I'll never forget after a Turning Point USA event, actually one of the students that was at that school came to that event and spoke. She came with her dad. She was in tears. And she came to me and she asked me, I'll never forget, she said, why is it that the news does not cover or care about my shooting as much as they did about Parkland? Just in tears. It's like, are we not as important? Is it just because we had a different idea of what, their solution wasn't a anti-gun solution. And so therefore that's why the news wasn't, covering them afterwards as long.
Yeah. When I went out there because no one knows how a parent feels unless you've been through it. Yeah. So I just felt I had a duty to go out to Santa Fe, and I just flew out there and I just, went, I made some calls, and I became really friendly with a guy who lost his son was murdered. So, it was interesting when I was out there, so they had like this motorcycle club when I was out there. And whenever the news came around, these motorcycle guys chased the news away. So it was pretty cool. They didn't want any news around. They kept it low key. They didn't want them to push some type of agenda. Right. And then they pushed the news out of there, and you didn't have these kids like you had in Parkland that just puppets. You know what I'm saying? I take shit all the time because I tell the truth. The only thing March for Our Lives accomplished, and I'm going to tell you the truth, is all they did was make a lot of noise and keep the shooting in the news. That's the only thing they did. They didn't accomplish anything with laws in Florida. They didn't make Broward County safer. No. They didn't accomplish anything. They weren't there for some of the parents when they were running for school board. They're not there now. They're trying to reinstate this Sheriff Israel. They're nowhere to be found in the state of Florida. So all they did, they got their fame. They went and registered other young Democrats, and they made a name for themselves. But for solutions,
got into Harvard.
Got into Harvard. But telling you, they didn't accomplish anything. If they did, I would tell you, where are they now? They're looking, if you can believe it, to reinstate this sheriff, this incompetent sheriff. There's a hearing that's going to be
my goodness.
This month.
He should have resigned.
Well, he was fired. The governor pulled him. The governor took him out of office, and now there's some hearing that he has a shot of getting back in, and it's going to be up to the senators in the state of Florida to vote to keep him out. So do you think March for Our Lives kids are going to go to Tallahassee and meet with these Democratic senators to get them not to put in their Democratic sheriff? It's not going to happen. So these kids, they're useless.
In their mind, it was the gun's fault, right?
Yeah, it was the gun's fault.
So it's like I don't know, in their mind, it's like, oh, well, it would have just been fine if that gun had been banned. The sheriff, why would the sheriff need to have done anything different if the guy, that's kind of their mentality, which is crazy.
Yeah, but at the same time, they think it's okay. They're only police officers should have firearms, right? Because they're the ones supposed to take care of us.
Yeah, that's the.
It doesn't make any sense.
In some schools, they don't even want the resource officers to have firearms.
Right.
They think it's too dangerous and scary for the children.
College campuses.
What is the point of having him there? He's like a mall cop that can't do anything.
Well, I can't even believe it. It's going to come to a vote again. But I think we'll be okay because Florida has a controlled Senate by Republicans and a House, and we have our governor's great. Ron DeSantis is doing a great job. He's got like such a high rated approval rating. And our 2 senators, Rick Scott and Mark Rubio. So I don't know. It's going to come to a vote. It's pretty crazy. So it'll be in the news probably by the 23rd of October.
Right. And I had one other question for you about some policy ideas. I obviously am not the kind of person who would say I want teachers to be required to carry a firearm, but I also think that, for example, we carry, and if I were a teacher, I would want to be allowed to carry in my classroom. If Correct. I had if I had gotten whatever the state said that I needed for that, I think that I should be able to do it in a school too. So I was just curious what you thought about the idea of teachers being allowed to carry, or or just what your thoughts are on that whole idea.
Sure. Good question. So after my daughter was murdered, we put a bill in the state of Florida to make all the schools safer. Mm-hmm. And one part of the bill was named the Aaron Feist Guardian Program. Mm-hmm. That was named after one of the coaches. He ran into the building unarmed and got murdered on the first floor. So in the bill, it allows teachers to voluntarily participate in a program of about 150 hours worth of training to be able to carry. So I'm all for it. The murderer reloaded 5 times in the building with no one to stop him. He could have had a musket in the building and killed as many people. 5 times he reloaded. No one was there. So I participated. I watched it, the class. So it's very intense. Half the people flunk out of it. That's how hard it is. They do gun retention. They're held to higher accuracy standards than regular deputies because it's inside the shooting. So why you get such a pushback from the Democrats is, first of all, they don't understand it, right? Because their brain thinks differently. Mm-hmm. Second, they think that they're going to go to the class like some grandma from home ec is going to go on a Friday, and then by Monday she's able to carry a gun at the school. But that's not how it works. It's 150 hours of intense training. 50% of them wash out. So I'm all for it. And
that's a lot.
And what Democrats, they don't understand the word is, like you were saying, voluntarily.
Right.
Okay, they can volunteer. Nobody's mandated. No one's forcing anyone to go to take this class.
Right.
But who are we not to allow a teacher to defend themselves or their students? And I think right there, like you said, when seconds count, who's going to be there in the hallway? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We can't, in a perfect world, would be great. We could hire a police officer, 10 of them for every school. Right. But we can't afford that. And why should we deny the teacher a right to defend herself or himself? And the class is very intense. There's a lot of states doing it. I know they're doing it in Texas. Mm-hmm. Maybe some are doing it in Colorado. But they're doing it in Florida. Mm-hmm. But where my daughter was murdered, run by these unethical Democrats, they still don't have it right. They're still not allowing teachers to go for this training where my daughter was murdered. But other schools, run by people that put kids' safety ahead of ideology, they're doing it. So and we've made it a law in Florida. But that's, like I said, the law is the law. But the school district doesn't have to obey the law. They do what they want. They won't let a teacher go and take this course voluntarily.
Yeah, and that's the real trap. I mean, even if it was a teacher, it blows my mind how, the same teachers that they say, oh wow, like that the law is being named after the coach that saved those students with his own body, right? So you guys are okay with that, right? But you're not okay with actually preparing or allowing that person, that teacher, to actually have something to protect themselves and their students in that situation. But you're okay with them dying.
That might actually stop the shooter.
Absolutely.
Right? Not just to sacrifice yourself, but maybe to stop the violence.
And
that's
even
happening.
worse,
They want
they
to give
think
them
they're
marbles. They should give them a bag of marbles and throw them at them. That's what they say.
Or the baseball bats. You remember those that
little bats?
The principal that gave bats to his
But hey, look,
teachers.
I sat through the training, so I'd be okay with a lunch lady if she could pass that class.
Yeah,
I would want her there watching if I had a grandson or anyone at the school. If she was able to pass that intense class, I'm okay with anyone doing it because I know how hard it is and what you got to do to get through it. So I'm all for it, but Democrats just, they can't get past it. But so you know what I mean? I wish they had different schools, you know what I mean, where you had options. Do you want to send your kid to the school where it says it's a no-gun zone and nobody's armed and all the doors are opened? You have that option.
Yeah.
Or we have the option, okay, the gates are closed. We have trained personnel here that are gonna fight, that are gonna shoot back if anyone comes into school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it'd be simple. That's what I tell. Well, what do you tell the parents that don't want that? I said, well, we need to do something. You go to the no gun zone school where the doors are open and no one carries. And I want to send my kid to the school that's like a fortress.
Yeah. Well, a potential school shooter, if there's a sign outside that says no guns allowed, but then there's another school that has a sign that says any attempt to hurt children will be met with lethal force. Where do you think that school shooter is going to go?
Exactly. So let them go there. That's why, if parents are that, they want to put their ideology ahead of their kids' safety. I can't educate everybody. Life's too short. I can only tell them what I've learned through my experience and facts that I've learned from the school district. And those are the facts. I don't have an agenda. I'm not running for office.
Yeah.
I just have a daughter that was murdered, and I want parents to know the truth.
Right. Yeah.
And your perspective should be especially important in that regard, because...
Well, when we get conservatives like you that want to know the truth, it's fine. But when you get most of the mainstream media, liberal stations didn't have me on, in D.C., in New York. None of them would have me on. It was mostly only Fox and, conservative radio stations all over.
Well, unfortunately, you're right that they have an agenda. They have an emotional response. And they're not actually thinking about what policies can we put in place that would have actually prevented this, or how can we better enforce laws that already exist so that this wouldn't have happened, or how can we go about fixing these problems in our society without encroaching on all of the civil liberties of law-abiding citizens. None of that is part of it. It's just a visceral response to remove an inanimate object, and it's a disservice to the victims who we lose in tragedies like this.
That's why it's so important for parents to read my book, Why Meadow Died, because it's the truth.
I agree.
Okay, it's the truth that the media doesn't want you to know.
Yes. Yeah, here I'm gonna put it up close so people can see the title again.
Why Meadow Died.
I can't even see it tonight. The audience is lucky. I can't even see what you girls got on tonight or nothing. I'm looking at a little screen. They're all lucky.
Oh, that's funny of you to say, for sure.
Well, you know what I mean. I don't always get to interview with two pretty girls. You know what I'm saying? I got guys. I got old ladies. I got, two young pretty girls here. So I'd rather be looking, but.
Well, we're flattered that you want to talk to us, really.
Why wouldn't I? If I could educate people, I'm always intrigued to speak to young conservatives, because that without you, our country's doomed.
Yeah, well, especially with how the left and the further left liberals have gone off the handle, because I can see a lot of moderate views, but right now, unfortunately, the Democratic Party does not really have a moderate wing. There's really not a moderate perspective coming from the Democrats right now. So
my lawyer actually switched.
Wow.
Yeah, because I would never even would have hired him, probably first of all, if I knew he was a Democrat, my lawyer. But I love the guy now, and he is doing an unbelievable job holding everyone accountable. Yeah. And after seeing all the failures, okay, and how they refuse to accept responsibility, how they push an agenda, how not a lot of people are interested in learning the facts. My attorney happened to switch to NPA, and just from my case and seeing the facts, he can't be a part of that Democratic Party anymore.
Mm-hmm. It's actually.
Edgar, wanting to say something?
Oh yeah, Edgar, did you want to say something? Sorry, you looked like.
Yeah, I was like.
Oh.
Like,
but my fiance is the same way. He's been a Democrat his whole life, but he can't go along with how far left they've gone. It's really the identity politics that gets him more than anything. But but yeah, I think there's a lot of Democrats who are disenchanted by.
They're gonna switch.
Problem. Yeah, I think they will. I think there's gonna be some surprises in 2020.
Just look at California. How could you even if you're a Democrat, right, and you're short mind, you could only think in certain blocks, and how could you think it's okay to put your kid or child in an environment where they can't suspend disruptive kids?
Right.
And this is a platform of what Democrats are doing. So you can't be for that. And if they get elected, they're going to want California. They're going to want to spread that into more districts, into more states. And your kid environment's going to be affected. And there's going to be more segregation because the haves are going to have to send their kid to the private schools. And that's what's going to happen. And this is where it's going. Just look at California, look at Broward, these heavy blue areas. And that's their platform of not suspending, not arresting, not expulsions, no expulsions, and lax discipline.
Yeah.
Wow.
And didn't Trump go to California and break records with how much money he raised there in one day? And it was in California. It wasn't, in a red state. They buy the most Trump stuff too out of California, I was told. They sell a lot of products, MAGA hats and shirts and everything that they sell like crazy out of California. So let's hope some of those people could wake up, Yeah, I hope so.
Maybe that wreck marijuana is getting to them out there. Let's keep them all stoned.
Hey, we have it over here too. So.
Yeah,
Democrat.
Colorado was the first.
That's a good platform. Let's keep them stoned and voting Democrat, right?
Well, maybe they'll change their ways too. Maybe they can be enlightened with that as well. And I wanted to let the audience know that your book is selling so well that even Amazon can't keep it on the shelves.
Can't keep up. So I just hope everyone just have patience, please. Order the book.
Yeah,
Why
please
Meadow
support.
Died. I'm hoping they'll move it up because they're getting a big inventory this week. So order the book Why Meadow Died so you can learn the truth of what happened in Parkland, and don't put your child in an environment like I did. Learn from the mistakes.
Absolutely.
And look what happened to me.
Yeah. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for joining us. It's been really eye-opening. I know a lot of the audience members. Actually, there's Richard Fletcher Jr. wanted to let you know that he's really sorry about what happened. But just, the bravery that you have to be a voice for this, and again, especially since it's a voice that the mainstream media does not want people hearing. So thank you so much for continuing to do such a great service for this country and this nation, so other people, like you said, don't have to experience what you experience. And hopefully we can stop changing this insanity cycle of putting the wrong failed policies over and over again, and actually change and makes schools safer. And
actually protect students like your daughter from having to go through.
That's it. And how about help the kids that are disruptive too?
Yeah.
What are we doing to them?
Right.
The kids that are acting out, what does it do for them? It hurts everybody.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's a lose. So
lose for everyone, and these policies are in place, and they're spreading to schools throughout the whole country. So please read my book, Why Meadow Died, and learn the facts.
And we'll try and put a link to that into our description at least.
Awesome.
But then also, how can people keep catch up with you and just follow you?
Oh,
what
my
you're doing?
Twitter, Andrew Pollack FL. I put everything on my Twitter. I'm on there. A few tweets, too much, man. I'll tell you
no,
that.
you
Social
do great
media,
stuff.
it's just time consuming, but I like it. I really give my opinions on it, and we need to push back against these failed policies and people.
We do.
Because if it's not for us, we lose the country, and we need to support our president and our Second Amendment, which, how I told you what it meant to me, so it's very important.
Yeah, and also a shout out to your son, Hunter. I've actually been talking to him a little bit. We want to have a conversation soon about, he goes to, I'm sorry, I'm not going to tell where he goes in case you don't want that, but he's a college student in Florida, and he's pro campus carry, so very thankful for that. So we're hopefully going to be talking soon about pushing that in Florida soon, because it's time.
Oh, that should be a big, I tried, they have that Guardian program, right? That 150-hour course. I think that the easy fix for that is that should be a college elective. If you're over 21, you should be able to take that Guardian course where they train you as a guardian, and then you should be able to get your concealed carry and carry at school. What would be better than that? I would be all for that, and I think states should run with that.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll definitely have to talk again soon and
definitely
try and get that passed in Florida. It's time. So
I think so.
Yeah. But well, thank you so much, Andrew. You have a great night. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. And please follow Andrew Pollack on social media.
Yeah.
So
thanks.
And buy his book too.
Take
it's great.
care, girls.
Bye.
Have a good night.
All right. Well, that was great. I mean, oh my goodness. I can't believe how he is able to just.
I can't believe that he can talk about it so calmly because I would just be such a mess trying to talk about that, especially hearing the story about her and how she actually, tried to protect other students herself, and how it was her teacher in particular was that stupid. Oh God, how can you hear gunshots outside and then just send students into the hallway and be like, I'm gonna lock the door?
Even after that, she knew that after she was shot, it didn't let her in because she was afraid.
Yeah.
I mean,
and how many cowardly adults just let kids die? Like, that is just so awful.
And I understand we don't know how things are going to be until you're in that situation. But it's just when then you blame it on other things, you have the audacity to blame it on something else other than it's just take personal responsibility, own up to what you did. Don't do it again. And
because love or hate the NRA, they obviously they had nothing to do with this,
right?
Or any other law-abiding rifle owner in America. There's so many points of failure in the Parkland shooting, but none of that is recognized. It's all about the gun. It's all about taking away, firearms from law-abiding citizens.
All right, so we're going to end on a positive note for me.
Oh, yeah.
Because Nina went to my wedding a few months ago, and she has not even been able to give me my present. So
yeah, mostly because I'm just terrible and forgetful and should have brought this to the wedding, but instead it's almost 5 months.
The baggage fees.
The baggage fees.
It's so pretty though.
I'm good at wrapping presents. That's one thing that I'll say.
I am not. That's why I paid an extra $1 or $2 during Christmas for those.
Do you actually pay people to wrap your presents at Christmas? That is so funny.
Yes, I do. Those people who are always doing kitchen Chipotle mayo. Oh my god.
Oh no, girl! Don't read that box. Is just a box from my parents' house so that I could put your gift up in there.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let me see.
Do we need a knife?
I was hoping my nails would be good enough. He's like,
Edgar's
I have
coming
things
in
to
with
do.
a
You gotta
pen.
hurry up. Okay.
I think I do actually have a proper knife in my purse if we need it. I don't know why I'm announcing that on the...
I'm probably the only Mexican that doesn't walk around with a knife.
Is that true? Is that a stereotype?
It's definitely a stereotype.
I didn't know that was a Hispanic thing.
Such a weird Mexican. I don't drink.
Yeah, that's weird.
No middle name. Not Catholic.
Yeah. That is strange. No middle name? Oh,
no
yeah.
Middle name.
Show him to the camera for sure.
Look at that. Travis, if you're watching.
Can you see? I can move my mic.
I don't know. Oh, yeah.
Because it's over here.
Aww. And wifey.
Hubby and wifey
Thank
mugs.
you. Okay, I love coffee, so.
Yeah, there you go.
And we'll take a picture. So, thank you.
And I needed to give them to you because my fiance saw them and he was like, "Did you buy these for us preemptively.
Oh, really?
And I was like, no.
So I should probably get that to Antonia finally.
Yeah, so, but congratulations on your wedding.
Well, thank you, and congrats soon. In a couple weeks.
I will be, to the audience, if y'all are curious, I will be getting married on October 12th, so it's less than 2 weeks away now. Yeah. I'm going to be having to change my last name and all that crazy stuff and taking vows, and Tony's going to be there.
All that anti-feminist stuff.
Yeah. I know, right? Because marriage is like a
man. Right.
Didn't they say, wasn't there some article about how marriage is just purely for the patriarchy's sake? Like, it's...
How many...
Like, men have just been tricking women into getting married this whole time. Or something. Like, tricking us into our own oppression.
We have been...
anyway.
We like the trickery, apparently, so... It's pretty nice. I will say that. 3 months in, and it's pretty nice. Of course, I'm experienced.
You clearly have like Stockholm syndrome or something. But anyway, we want to thank our audience for tuning in tonight. Thank you. We do love you guys. If you want to be a patron, you can go on Patreon, Trigger Warning 2A podcast on there. Thank you so much to our current patrons.
Yes,
we know we're behind on sending out like thank you notes and things. We'll do that. We promise. We
I'm
will.
still trying to send out my thank you notes for my wedding.
Yeah, it's hard.
That's really.
And I'm like trying to plan this wedding. I'm in the last home stretch here. Like I'm like. I'll be able to do more things in a few weeks. But also the best thing that you can do if you want to support us is just share this video, share this podcast if you're listening
subscribe.
Just to audio. Yeah, please also subscribe. All of that stuff helps us with YouTube because YouTube hates us based on the stuff we talk about.
Oh, they hate us immensely. Apparently Apple might hate us because we're trying to put our podcasts out.
I know Apple like won't approve our request to have our podcast on there. I'm not sure why they're being not forthcoming.
But if you have Android, apparently you can do it there, so you can have our podcast. But,
Android's fine with us, but Apple not so much. We'll figure that out.
GOA, just one more thing about GOA. We've been continuing that partnership with them. The link, Edgar is putting that in there. Thank you. It gets you 25% off of your GOA membership, and so please go on to there and help out America.
And they're a great organization. They're really doing real on the ground work.
They really are.
Get concealed carry, constitutional carry. They're an amazing organization.
Absolutely.
And obviously we want to thank Guns for Everyone who makes this show possible by producing our show. Obviously Edgar, our producer, is the head of Guns for Everyone. So if you're in Colorado and you want to get a concealed carry permit, they offer concealed carry classes for free. Or if you want to buy some guns, they also have retail stores. So Guns for Everyone, thank you so much for sponsoring our podcast and our show.
All right, so we are going to head out. Next week is going to be Maj Toure.
I was going to say in the house, but he won't be in studio. But he will be here live, to interview with us.
Yes. He is running for Philly City Council, so it's going to be really good to talk to him. Also, he testified in one of the hearings last week in D.C., so we can talk about that and how great that was. So be sure to tell people about that. So I am Antonia Okafor.
And I'm Nina Prevost. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next Monday
on Trigger Warning 2A.
Bye, guys.
Bye.